Introducing Korean broadcast content that you won't be able to stop watching. For weary modern souls, Dr. Romantic, the quirky genius doctor of Puldam Hospital, prescribes heartwarming tales of humanity. A couple together for 7 years sees their rose-tinted glasses shatter. Can they keep their relationship alive? Discover the raw stories of youth, work, and love. Beyond what social media can show, experience the vibrant Korea through its hidden gems. Mama, the ultimate K-pop festival for global fans. Find your star in a feast of trendy music and electrifying performances. Now, the whole world enjoys it together.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said Washington will work something out with South Korea, a day after he threatened on social media that he will raise tariffs on Seoul back to 25%, blaming Seoul's legislature for not implementing a deal struck in October. North Korea says it successfully test-fired a newly upgraded large-caliber rocket launcher system, with its leader Kim Jong-un overseeing the launch. This comes after South Korea's military said it detected multiple short-range ballistic missiles the day before, launched from Pyongyang toward the East Sea. Ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday next month, the Korean government will supply a record 270,000 tons of key grocery items, such as apples, pears, and cabbage, to ease inflation pressures. It also plans to provide holiday funding for small business owners. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. We begin today with U.S. President Donald Trump indicating room for discussions with South Korea on tariffs, saying the two sides will work something out even after threatening to raise duties from 15% to 25% over stalled trade commitments. Our Buniran starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump has opened the door to further tariff discussions with South Korea, saying the two sides will work something out, even as his administration warns that higher tariffs could return over stalled trade commitments. Speaking to reporters at the White House on Tuesday, Trump said he would seek a solution with Seoul after announcing plans a day earlier to raise tariffs on South Korean goods from 15% to 25%.
So we'll work something out. We'll work something out with South Korea.
The White House says the planned increase is tied to South Korea's failure to fulfill commitments under a bilateral trade deal. A senior official said while Washington lowered tariffs on Korean goods, Seoul has made no progress on its end of the bargain. Under the agreement, Washington reduced both reciprocal and product-specific tariffs, including those on automobiles, in exchange for South Korea's pledge to invest $350 billion in the United States. But U.S. officials pointed delays in passing legislation in Korea's National Assembly needed to support that investment. The dispute centers on a special bill to facilitate U.S.-bound investment introduced last November, following a bilateral memorandum of understanding. The U.S. retroactively lowered auto tariffs in December after the bill was submitted, but the legislation has yet to pass. In Seoul, the ruling Democratic Party says the bill will be formally reviewed in February, stressing that the delay reflects standard legislative procedures. Opposition lawmakers argue that national interests are at stake and warn against unilateral action. Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chol has urged lawmakers to swiftly process the bill, while acknowledging the government has not received a formal notice from Washington on any tariff timeline. With South Korea's industry minister expected to meet U.S. officials soon, both governments are watching closely to see whether diplomacy or legislation can prevent a renewed trade clash. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
On the domestic front, South Korea unveiled a series of financial support measures aimed at stabilizing livelihoods and easing inflation pressures ahead of the upcoming Lunar New Year holiday in February. The measures were announced on Wednesday by the Ministry of Economy and Finance at a meeting of economy-related ministers. To curb holiday grocery prices, the government will supply a record 270,000 tons of key items, including apples, pear, and cabbage, and roll out record discounts. The package also includes new holiday funding for small merchants and SMEs worth around $27.4 billion, along with support worth $40.4 billion for loans and guarantees. To boost local spending, the government will issue regional gift certificates worth approximately $2.7 billion with higher discounts and purchase limits. And amid the intensifying global demand for high-bandwidth memory chips, SK hynix has reportedly secured more than 2/3 of the supply orders for Nvidia's next-generation HBM4 chips. Now that's according to Yonhap News Agency on Wednesday, which also said the order is for AI platforms, including Nvidia's highly anticipated Vera Rubin next-generation AI supercomputer platform, set to come later this year. A previous forecast had SK hynix supplying just over 50% of the HBM4 chips to its biggest customer. However, Samsung Electronics is set to take a step ahead by becoming the first supplier of HBM4 chips to Nvidia. Samsung reportedly passed final quality tests for both Nvidia and AMD, with delivery expected as early as next month. Both companies are expected to outline their official 2026 strategies during their respective earnings calls on Thursday. Meanwhile, North Korea claimed this morning that it test-fired a renewed large-caliber rocket launcher system under the supervision of leader Kim Jong-un, while also launching multiple short-range ballistic missiles toward the East Sea. Meanwhile, South Korea condemned the launches as violations of UN Security Council resolutions, calling them a provocative show of force ahead of Pyongyang's upcoming ruling party Congress. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
North Korea has conducted a test launch of an upgraded large-caliber multiple rocket launcher system, with leader Kim Jong-un personally overseeing the drill. According to the Korean Central News Agency on Wednesday, the test took place Tuesday and involved the launch of 4 rockets using what was described as new technology. The rockets struck a target in waters about 358 kilometers from the launch site as Pyongyang assessed the system's combat effectiveness. The test came the same day North Korea fired multiple short-range ballistic missiles toward the East Sea in what South Korean officials see as a show of military force ahead of a key ruling party Congress expected early next month. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said it detected the missile launches from an area north of Pyongyang at around 3:50 p.m. The missiles traveled approximately 350 kilometers. Following the launches, South Korea's Presidential Office of National Security convened an emergency security meeting with senior military officials. The office strongly condemned the ballistic missile test, calling it a clear violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions. In a statement, the office said North Korea's actions were provocative and urged Pyongyang to cease further launches immediately. North Korea is widely expected to hold its first ruling party Congress in 5 years early next month, during which it is expected to outline major policy directions on defense, diplomacy, and the economy. Analysts say recent weapons tests may be aimed at strengthening Pyongyang's negotiating position and showcasing military advances ahead of that gathering. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Blue House has welcomed China removing part of its controversial steel structures in the West Sea. In a notice this morning, the top office called the move meaningful progress, noting the government's diplomatic efforts to resolve the issue with China. China's foreign ministry announced the previous day that the management platform in the provisional measure zone, where South Korea and China's exclusive economic zones overlap, was being relocated. It cited voluntary action by the company in charge for its own corporate needs. The issue was addressed earlier this month at the summit between Presidents Lee Jae-myung and Xi Jinping. The South Korean romantic drama Can This Love Be Translated ranked first on Netflix global non-English TV charts. According to Netflix official site on Wednesday, the romance drama starring Kim Sun-woo and Go Yoon-jung recorded 9 million views on its second week of release. The drama currently ranks first in 15 countries, including Mexico, Colombia, and Indonesia, and is in the top 10 charts in 60 countries worldwide. The reality show Singles Inferno Season 5 ranked second in the global non-English TV chart and entered the top 10 in 32 countries. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the death of Antoni Gaudí, the genius Spanish architect. The Sagrada Familia, which Gaudí was not able to complete during his lifetime, is now writing a new chapter in history as having the tallest spire in the world. Our Cha Yoon-kyung reports.
The light passing through the stained glass fills the interior, leaving visitors speechless. Amid the forest light columns, it's easy to forget that construction is still ongoing.
I haven't visited often, maybe 3 or 4 times, but each time I am deeply moved. It is truly a spectacle.
All around, visitors stand still for a long time. The Sagrada Familia is no longer just a place to view. It has become a space to dwell in.
Beautiful. I sat down over there for like 15 minutes just staring and just in awe. So I love it.
The architect, Antoni Gaudí, knew that this church would not be completed during his lifetime. He saw only one of the towers finished. This space of wonder now enters a very special period this year.
June 10th marks the 100th anniversary of Antoni Gaudí's death. The year 2026 will be the year of him.
The central spire has been partially completed, and the vertical symbol Gaudí envisioned is now visible over the city. It has also set the record as the tallest church spire in the world. However, this architectural work is still ongoing, and the completion date remains uncertain. The Sagrada Familia is not just the work of a single architect. It is the result of a century of collective effort. Gaudí's unfinished designs continue to shine, even as people commemorate the 100th anniversary of his passing. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
As part of our special coverage on how Korea-France relations have evolved over the past 140 years, Arirang TV sat down with the top Korean culture expert and official in Paris. Here's our Oh Soo-young with more.
A new year of discovery is unfolding in France as cultural exchange with Korea hits new dimensions. As held in Paris mark 140 years of diplomatic relations in 2026. Scores of exhibitions, performances and exchanges will highlight both classic and contemporary culture. For years, director Agnès Benayer has been the driving force of bilateral cultural ties. She was the chief authority in charge of the 130th anniversary celebration. Collaborations have since broadened well beyond film. Benayer says the two nations are kindred creative spirits.
I think Korea is a rare country where art is truly reinvented, creativity revisited, while remaining deeply rooted in tradition and culture. France and Korea share this passion for a millennia-old culture that is very open to the future, not afraid to evolve, and enriched by cross-cultural blending.
Through the common language of heritage and innovation, various art exchanges are flourishing.
In France, I believe what works first and foremost is when events create bridges between the two cultures through dialogue. When we presented the creation by José Montalvo with the National Ballet, it produced something very beautiful, very unprecedented. More recently, Kim Soo-jae's installation at the Bourse de Commerce was magnificent, especially her mirror work in the rotunda. And the French have a great curiosity for craft, for Korean design, Korean culture in general, from hanbok to knot-making traditions. We have come to love and continue to discover many things about Korea. There's curiosity about Korean heritage, civilizations we know little about, whether the kingdom of Silla or Joseon.
Cooperation continues between leading national museums, and the Pompidou Art Centre's Seoul branch opening this year is highly significant, she says. Benayer was a former director at the prestigious Paris-based institute.
It shows that Korea has become a central place for contemporary art. 10 years ago, that was less the case. But there is an important art market in Korea now. The presence of Pompidou testifies to that.
Today, the director oversees partnerships across 14 Paris museums, handling over 1 million works. The Sanusi Museum alone holds nearly 250 Korean works. It will highlight Korea this year through exhibitions on contemporary art and Joseon literature. More broadly, Benayer is keen to see partnerships blossom across new realms, in particular digital art.
There will be a virtual reality exhibition created by the Musée d'Orsay around the Impressionists. Also, a first online webtoon festival. We're seeing new artist residencies too. The Villa Busan is dedicated to visual arts. In 2026, we will open the Villa Busan, dedicated to graphic arts.
This compares to a decade ago, when Korean culture was mostly unknown across France. Benayer launched nearly 500 events in both countries on the 130th anniversary, drawing almost 7 million visitors.
It was a deeply enriching experience. We hoped then to foster cooperation between institutions for sustainable collaboration. And it's happening. For 10 years now, Korea has continued to captivate the French public from K-dramas such as Squid Game to K-pop, K-food, and K-beauty. More recently, many French people discovered K-literature through Hangang's Nobel Prize. These dimensions already existed 10 years ago, but only a few recognized it. For us, we could see Hallyu would continue to evolve. That is a great strength of Korean culture.
Under the theme Creativity, Opportunities, Solidarity, over 100 programs across 20 cities will take place in both countries throughout 2026. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Paris.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. After nearly 2 decades of negotiations, the European Union and India have sealed a historic free trade agreement that will affect up to 2 billion people and roughly a quarter of the global economy. The agreement on Tuesday will cut or eliminate tariffs on almost all goods traded between India and the European Union's 27 member states. The deal lowers steep Indian tariffs on European wine, cars, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals, while Europe will phase out duties on nearly all Indian exports, including textiles, apparel, and engineering goods. Leaders frame the pact as a strategic response to global trade disruption as Washington ramps up tariff pressure on both economies. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called it the, quote, mother of all deals, while Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the agreement strengthens global stability during a period of economic turmoil. The upcoming Winter Olympics in Italy is facing a diplomatic firestorm after news broke that the U.S. is deploying its controversial Immigration and Customs Enforcement Unit for security. U.S. officials said on Tuesday that the officers come from Homeland Security Investigations, a separate ICE unit that supports security at international events and does not conduct immigration enforcement abroad. Confusion over the role of officers triggered public outrage and political criticism in Italy, including opposition from Milan's mayor. Italy's Interior Ministry later said the U.S. agents will work from the American consulate in a support role, stressing that all Olympic security remains under Italian authority. Honduras swore in new President Nasri Asfuda on Tuesday following his razor-thin election victory. The conservative leader, who had received a public endorsement from U.S. President Donald Trump, won by just 26,000 votes in a fiercely contested election last year, marked by political tension and fraud allegations. Asfuda has vowed to fight poverty, corruption and crime while reviving one of the poorest economies in the Western Hemisphere. He also pledged to restore diplomatic ties with Taiwan, reversing a decision by the previous government. TikTok has reached a last-minute settlement to avoid a high-stakes U.S. jury trial over allegations that its platform deliberately addicts and harms children. Attorneys for the plaintiff confirmed the settlement on Tuesday, though neither side disclosed financial terms. The case centers on claims that social media companies deliberately designed addictive features to maximize youth engagement and advertising profits. The trial in Los Angeles will proceed against Instagram and YouTube. TikTok remains a defendant in hundreds of related cases nationwide. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
It was a colder morning than the same time yesterday. Cold wave warnings have expanded and intensified in inland regions, and afternoon temperatures will remain below season norms as well. Alongside the cold, very dry conditions persist across parts of the Seoul metropolitan area, Gangwon-do province, and much of the Gyeongsang-do region. So far this year, there have been 39 wildfires, and more than half of these fires have occurred in the Gyeongsang-do region, resulting in an alert level being in place for wildfires. The first time this has happened in January. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to -1 degree Celsius. Daegu topping out at 4 degrees under sunny skies in most places. Meanwhile, Ulleungdo and Dokdo will see heavy snowfall with up to 20 centimeters expected through Friday. Then the cold will gradually ease starting this weekend, with daytime temperatures slowly recovering.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.